Oh,
But I've had 4 in the last 6 months.
our son and his wife, he's 31. She is 28, 29. They're in a wedding. They're in at least 5 weddings every summer.
Oh, yeah. I remember those times.
And they still hang out with their high school friends almost as much as they did in high school. It's unbelievable. Not college friends. They have college friends. They have this bond, and she has like 5 girls she was in show choir and cheerleading with. They're as tight now as they were when they were senior in high school. Our son Tyler, same way. They still get together on a regular basis and have as much fun as they did when they were in high school.
There's a lot to be said for that. Like, I've got a good group of college friends, but like my close high school friends, I would bring them into the mix. Yeah.
I taped mine down because I forget.
Yeah.
And since we're live streaming,
Have we got more tape?
yeah, somewhere, some office. I watch every live stream. I don't think unless you have a super high def technology, you can read those nameplates from that camera back in the back.
I'm going to see if I can get it. Do you want some tape? Sure.
I'm good. I'm down. Mine's staying down. Did she say we're on or no?
Yes.
Okay, just not projecting. Okay, let's get official. Let's get the mallet. I'll do the Three Stooges. To the people out there. Well, you were there at the EDC when I said our new county motto we just adopted is we laugh to keep from
You
crying.
know what I wanted to say?
I don't, but
Don't? Sarcasm, Ken. Sarcasm.
I'm serious.
This is off the subject of tonight. Did you see at AIC breakout session that House Bill 1454 is what you guys want to discuss at council breakout session?
I told him, I said it's a topic at the ICCA breakout of the county council. Oh, good, we have a commissioner in the courtroom, in the audience. Get Bobby down here, we'll have 2. Joe saw me at EDC. Joe said, I can't be at your meeting. I said, we're live streaming it. And I told Shannon there's going to be a 50-point test. If you don't pass it, you're no longer a council member. And he reminded me I can't do that legally. I was kind of serious, but he was serious too. I can't do that. But I'm tempted. These guys know it. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Call this work session of the Henry County Council together. There will be no official action. We do not even have a quorum, but we don't need a quorum because it's a work session. So those in the audience, I guess all 3 of us can't be on at the same time.
Yeah, you can. They've done it.
I'm going to move mine this way.
It's okay.
How's that?
Yeah. Okay. We are live.
You're not taking it down anymore.
Oh, you know what?
It's mine.
It's his computer.
Okay.
Jeez.
Well, there's tape right there.
Oh, gee. I was hiding it from you.
Sorry, Kenneth.
There we go.
We reconvene this meeting of the work session of the Henry County Council, and we'll get serious because we've got some serious things to cover. Any questions on the point number 1 on the recap of current or recent events? Any topics you want to cover on A through M on the recap of recent events of relevance? Kyle? Shannon?
I'm good. I've been involved in nearly all those discussions, so.
Can you give us a update on what happened with the HB 1454 discussion you had?
Shannon and I can a little bit. We've been in communication with Jason. He put out an inquiry of him. He's going to be at the Saturday meeting because I already had an obligation at Bentonville that's talking about 1454.
Yeah.
So Shannon can say the rest because he's been kind of updating.
I did a little bit of investigation and sent an email to Jason Sumler to try and follow-up email because one had been sent to them a few weeks ago asking. And my understanding is that we have up to, from 0.01% to 0.05% that's of the income. So that's a tax section. That's not 0.05% of the amount we collect. That's 0.01% to 0.05% of our public safety lit. Our public safety lit is 0.25, so we can allocate 1/25 of it up to 1/5 of it. So up to 20% of it, we could allocate it for special uses.
Okay.
In order for them to receive it, they will have to provide a resolution approved by their governing body requesting it to the auditor within 15 days. The calculation of the dollar amounts that they can receive is based on the assessed value of non-farmland that will be as a percentage of what the total assessed value is of non-farmland.
And that's broken down by township.
It's broken down by township and/or any fire districts that may have joined together, townships or something, their percentages would be together. The question I asked of Baker Tilly is, the statute says that those dollars, when allocated, will be paid out of public safety lit prior to any other dollars coming out of public safety lit, of which case we're going, yeah, but we already budgeted all of public safety lit, right? And so the question that I asked is, do we have, is it shall, will, may, what is it? And I believed that we could decide the percentage, 0.01 to 0.05. But if we do it for one, I think it's attributable to all. They just have to ask for it. And then the next question I asked was, if that is, the law specifically covers calendar year. So if that body provides us with that letter this year, then January 1, we would be required to provide them with their portion of the dollars. Now, I did get a call from Jason and an email back from Jason, and the response was the law says may, not shall, not will. So we may allocate 0.01 up to 0.05. The meeting on Saturday is with the IVFA, and I believe their intention will be to try to make it so we will, not that they can change it, but they're going to try to recommend that we do make that allocation.
They're going to try to sell it.
Well, and we'll have a decision to make, because the next question I asked of Jason is, if we do agree to do that, then we'll have to change the public safety lit to be able to cover budgets, which we've discussed a little bit about in the past as well. The opportunity to increase the public safety lit, the next opportunity to make that change would be in March. So we could make that change early next year if we choose to, but there's a lot to discuss, a lot to determine. As you can see on the list here, we've asked for that breakdown of the assessed values to be able to, we haven't, I mean,
Calculate, yeah.
the IVFA has asked for that, so.
Jody's
working on that,
for us.
and we need to use that too, because we can't just give them the breakdown of the assessed values. We need to know how many dollars we're talking about as well. So,
Do you know if that 0.01 to 0.05, if we adopted that, then what if 8 out of the 17 or 15 volunteer fire departments, what if they ask for it? Is they get a piece of that pie? I mean, we don't give every one of them a 0.01, do we? If we
we
adopt
decide what level, and what level applies to all.
Okay, so that pie split between whatever amount we decide on total.
Yes.
Okay.
And if
Good to
they,
know.
to get, I guess to your point, if we decide 0.01, we have 17 volunteer fire departments. If only 3 of them ask for it, they don't get a bigger piece of the pie. You know what I mean? that the rest of those dollars would still stay in public safety lit
Okay.
for county use until such time. If we pass it though, and a governing body of one of those fire departments asks us for it, we are obligated to give it to them if
Okay.
we've already.
If we pass it. On July 18th, we got this, we all did, I'm pretty sure this DLGF that did the summation of what it would mean for House and Road Act 1454, and it goes into all that. And there is a language that I was showing Kyle on the fourth page. It says may adopt a resolution. It doesn't say shall or will. It says may adopt a resolution to allocate. And it talks about township fire departments, volunteer fire departments, also talks about county emergency medical services. And of course, fire protection territories and fire protection districts. Anyway, that was July 18th, and it goes into quite a bit of detail. Anything else about 1454?
Nope.
I assume you're going to come back and give us a report of
Yeah,
the
I'll
Bentonville
see what
meeting.
they have to
Any
say on
commissioners
Saturday.
going to that? The Bentonville thing that we've been, okay,
It's
so
your-
you'll
it's your
see Bobby
next door
there.
to your place, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty close.
Yeah, you have to drive a little further than she does.
Yeah, that's all right.
You know what Bentonville is on Google
I-
Maps, by the way.
I do know where
Oh,
Bentonville
okay. They used to have a state bank that by then. Any other questions about,
I do that regularly anyway.
can you have that discussion after our work? Anyway, any other questions about number one?
No.
Kyle?
No.
Okay. I'm looking over it myself. Okay, read over it, there'll be a quiz afterwards. Number two, update today, things that we need to really discuss. We did have a meeting with Debbie and this Bobby late August because they had a few questions about our budget hearings, a couple of loose ends, and I think we answered most of those. We also, as pointed out in number one, assigned some salaries to the non-general fund entities, raises, 911, EMA, EMS, health, highway, park. And that was based primarily on what we've done the last few years, that those that are furthest behind West Market would get a bit bigger raise than what those that are at or near West Market. Debbie had sent something out asking for feedback and didn't get it, so we assigned at that meeting that we had, it was either on the 30th or 31st. I think the meeting with the WISP people were on the 30th, so it probably was the 31st. Okay, setting salaries and raises moving forward. I know, Shannon, you had comments made at the last department head meeting. Next one's on next Friday, the 22nd. I assume in the basement, 911 Training Center, the Justice Center. Do you have anything you want to? Betsy was there. Susan's not. Susan couldn't make it. Harold has the flu, is in bed. Mike, I don't know.
I think he's out of the country.
And Betsy's Penn State had a must attend kind of thing that they're working on with AI. So you
Sure.
share your thoughts based on what you shared at the department head meeting.
At the department head meeting, we talked a lot about merit-based wage increases, and the consensus from the department heads was they want performance reviews, they want to have consistency in performance reviews, but they do not want merit-based wage increases to be part of the scales. That makes things actually considerably easier. In our first meeting that we had with them, there was a lot of discussion about that and some desire to investigate that. But after that meeting, the consensus was we don't really want to pursue that. So having the discussions with Wagner, Irwin, Shealy, one of the things I asked for, and Kyle, you've got a copy, and Kenan, you have a copy. I have copies of these for commissioners if you want them, if you don't have them. These are
I think he brought extras.
first two pages, I believe, are the
One's 2023 and one's
2023
24, right?
salary ranges. These are the scales that I had asked for prior to the Wagner, Irwin, Shealy.
You need one?
I gave her one
Oh,
for
you got two?
Steve, yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Basically, it gives us the low the high, and the midpoint. And this is what I had been referring to, that we could consider adopting this kind of a scale or a range. And these are not new proposed or anything. These are actual numbers. The 2023 one is the actual information from Wagner Irwin Shealy. However, when we would send them a request, they would send back, this job, it classifies as a PAT 2, and the market is 28,3685. And they would then also, and that's 36.85 cents per hour is what that is. I think the top line is per hour, the bottom line is, the second line is the wage. But they were only giving us that one number in the middle. We weren't able to see what the width of the scale is. We can see what the widths of the scale are now for each classification. And so the first 2 pages are exactly what we were being given for 2023. They adjusted the scales based on all the data they have collected for 2024. And this is on those same lists of counties and municipalities that they had provided us with, that they use for our comparisons, which is exactly what I asked them for. I didn't want them to do any extra work or change anything, just show us what the scales are, not just the midpoints. So they were able to get this to us. We had that discussion with Wagner Irwin Shealy during the work session.
You need 2024 because we just got 2023.
No, they're, if you look at it, the first 2 pages is Pat.
Yeah, but they
Second
saw
2 pages,
2023, but
the first 2,
Well, they both say 2023.
that's just the date that she
Okay,
printed.
just making sure. that-
Yeah, if you look at the Pat one of them has 19. No,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not very clear,
yeah.
so.
Beginning of the second line, one's 23, one's 24.
Yeah, and the second line of it says Henry County, Indiana, 2024 proposed. Got it. Yeah, it's okay.
I picked that up finally last night and
It's-
highlighted it.
It's a bit of an eye chart. It's kind of
Yeah.
small print, but these are the actual classifications. And what we discussed with Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy is we had that one meeting with Addie where she said she had seen and helped counties with providing stair-step scales within the ranges based on years of service, basically putting longevity into some sort of stair-step service. And those were the scales that I got from other counties that I did some research on. Addie said that was not abnormal. She's done that. When Kent was here, Kent kind of cautioned against that. He cautioned that if you have it in there, you're obligated to pay it, and if the county comes into hardship and doesn't have the funds, you're setting yourself up for failure. So what I heard from Wagner and Shealy is they have maybe 2 different opinions on that, and Addie doesn't think it's too far out of the ordinary because she does it. Kent, though, has seen it where counties have got themselves in trouble with it. So that's a decision that we can make in coordination with the department heads, if that's what they would like to see, and if we're willing to do that. And so, in my mind, we've got choices to make. We have to decide if we're going to provide a scale to pay within, or are we going to have every single classification be the same dollar amount? Everybody that with a job type in that classification will make the same dollar. And if we do, then we can use what Ken Irwin had suggested, is if you have a single wage, then you can use longevity and specialty pay to try to compensate the more experienced individuals for their knowledge, experience, and loyalty. So one of those options does not require any changes to the personnel manual. The other one does, in my opinion. So those are the options, really, and I guess from a wage raise standpoint, that we'll have to make some decisions here in the next 30 days, right? Did we? All right, sooner the better. October, right?
Right.
So we've got some decisions to make fairly short order to either, if we're going to do something different than what we've done in the past, we need to discuss that, get it taken care of, make decisions. And the third possibility could be a combination of both, right? It could be a percentage increase for everyone, and then a modification to longevity and specialty pay and things like that we may want to build into the personnel manual. I would suggest if there's a modification to the longevity pay that's documented in the personnel manual, that's going to have to be reviewed and changed together with the commissioners. If we wanted to do a one-time longevity bonus, if you will, I don't know that that requires any personnel manual changes.
One of the things I calculated recently is their external low market is exactly 10% less than their midpoint, and their external high market is exactly 10% above their midpoint.
Right, on every classification,
Yeah,
which I don't like.
that wouldn't have been very hard on an Excel spreadsheet to take their midpoint.
Right.
Minus 0.1 plus 0.1. I thought it was actually going to be all over the map.
I was hoping to see a difference in the depth as well, or the width of the scales, but you're right, it's 20%.
But like I pointed out to Eddie, the commissioners and council are going to get a decrease because it shows that in their market. So just FYI, wink, wink. But it does show that. First time in 5 years they did. Anyway, go ahead.
Shannon, what do you think allows the most flexibility of the two options you kind of presented, or a hybrid?
I think the hybrid probably provides the most flexibility. If we made and I'm speaking just as Shannon's personal opinion, and that may change after having some discussions with others. Like Kenan said, we've got a meeting next Friday with department heads, and I want to hear what they have to say before coming up with what any kind of a proposal might look like for council to approve. But I guess in my mind, I feel like a flat raise for everyone with some possible changes in the personnel manual, working with the commissioners for longevity type changes and specialty pay type changes. I feel like that's a mix of the two, and it gives us an opportunity to do some good. And what that looks like at the end, I don't know. But in my mind, I guess one extreme or the other doesn't feel 100% right, and in the middle feels better to me.
I shared with Shannon, I would hope that that hybrid would start out with a set 3% raise, with the possible exception of those that got big bumps last year, year and a half, which already got their raise. And that might include probation, which had a big jump as per the state. But most other people just got a 2.9 average last year, except for poll workers. So I was hoping, I mean, you shared with Debbie to put down 3% raise. We found out after moving so much over into the safety and jail lit that freed up monies in the general fund, that we could easily do a flat 3% and then do all the other things you said on top of that.
I guess I would like to look at it as a big picture, and I'm not prepared to make any assumptions or jump to conclusions about what percentage. From my standpoint, I would like to see what the whole thing may look like.
I agree.
Before.
I would just be really unhappy if we did less than 3%.
Understood.
I should say that. But I agree with you on the big picture, too. Any other questions? This was partially to bring up the speed and the other people that are on live stream or
Yeah,
listen
the
to live
ones,
stream later.
some of them that couldn't join us here are watching via live stream. They just couldn't get here.
Or will watch it when they get better.
Yes.
Okay.
The Wagner Irwin Shealy for 2024 was
Yeah.
approved.
Yeah.
Was there any change to what we asked them for or what they deliver? Just
Is it an
Same.
hourly or is it a flat rate?
some of both, flat rate for services, and then anything above and beyond you pay for
Another
Another
additional?
hybrid? Well, FYI, we upped that to 14,000 at our meeting on the 31st. We said 14,000. We upped it from 12.
So we've got the budget to pay for their contract.
Yeah,
We knew it was
so-
gonna happen, so.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about the Wagner Irwin Shealy? We're going to wait and get some feedback from the department heads. I met with one of my liaisons, and they were actually at the computer working on suggestions to the personnel manual as I walked into their office, and had a page and a half on their computer working on suggestions for changes in the personnel manual.
I just have a single question, and do you guys know, I mean, I think all those responses from department heads were supposed to go to Stephanie. Has she compiled some? Has she received any? Do we know? She did? Okay,
I know
good.
she's about to receive another one from this morning.
Yeah, I hadn't followed up, but good, thank you.
Okay. I'm kind of like Shannon. I kind of wish it wasn't just a low being 10%, which is what we've asked for. So, because we've had the first column and the second column all along the last 2 years, and the high is just 10% more, but it's okay. They gave you what you asked for.
Yeah.
I just was
If
thinking
that's
it
how
might be
they say
something
it
else.
is, then that's how they say it is, I guess.
Their classification. And Addie's the top classification. Yeah. And we never get a consultant. I think that's
So-
the receptionist.
Is there a definition in there that tells us what's above and, okay, yeah, so anything outside of scope is those dollars, okay, that's what my question was. Thank you.
We budgeted for that, so we should be good. Unless we have people
Sure.
have them on their hotline. Okay. One of the things I expressed to Shannon in a little informal sit-down, i.e., was hopefully the commissioners and we can get together soon after the September 22nd, at least set up a meeting that we can talk about the personnel manual and not wait until Christmas. So that's an intention of the council. That's up to you. But we would love to have it sooner than later, because there's a few things, we don't have to change the entire manual, but there's a few things that can be changed right away if it's agreed upon. One of them I shared with you is the longevity. I gave you a longevity sheet and what it would cost the county to increase that. Right now, it's every 3 years, it's jumped by $200. It cost the county $20,700 to increase that to $250. One of the things that came out of the last two department head meetings was that it's not much of an incentive or encouragement for the years of service. I've talked to other people, and we have one of the lowest, well, some people call it matrix, but jumps with years of experience for the county. This is not something that would be an incentive for somebody to stay here based on this. When you couple it with our salaries being lower than a lot of area businesses and public entities like counties and municipalities. So out of that, I just went department by department with Stephanie's help, with what everybody is on longevity, whether they're year 1, 2, or 3, and how soon they would be jumping to the third year jump of $200, and calculated in the general fund amount for a $50 bump would be for the general fund departments, $13,350. For the non-general fund departments, including 911 under the PSAP, would be $7,350. Anyway, $20,700 would be the annual cost over the next year to increase that, and then to increase it $100 to $300 would be twice that. It's $41,400. So I just throw that out there as one thing to consider, and
That's in addition to current longevity, correct?
that's additional.
Thank you.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people that's
Mhm.
on longevity.
Sure.
So it costs 20,000 to increase it just. My suggestion when we get there is start small and see what it would do,
I think,
see the effect long-term.
and that's what I would like to have a discussion with the department heads,
Absolutely.
because I am not opposed to, this in my mind has to combine with the flat percentage increase. And
Agreed.
if it makes sense, and I made a comment in there with the full department heads that if the longevity increase is sizable, then a flat increase across the board for everybody might be smaller. You only have so many dollars to deal with, right?
Right.
So-
I think when we left the last budget hearing, we'd calculated we had over $500,000 to play with. It costs roughly $100,000 for every percent.
For every percent. Yeah.
And that includes roughly 19 to 20% for fringe benefits. So fringe benefit increases, that includes the increase in the taxes and the perf and everything else that goes with that, health insurance being a portion of that, Social Security, 100,000 for every 1%. So a 3% would be 300,000, which give us about 200,000 still to play with on longevity and all the other things you're talking about. That's just throwing out
And
general numbers, but
miscellaneous
they're close
other
based
things
on.
that might come up as we go. That's
We don't want to spend all the 500,000
right.
because that'll come back and bite us. That's why we have additional appropriations this year. Who knew back a year from now that YOC was going to close? One example, no one. We thought the housing of prisoners was going to go away, but now we have housing of youth in other communities. And there's no crystal ball in the world that foresaw that, except maybe if we were sitting in Delaware County, they might have known about it, but no other county did. Other questions, thoughts on any of that? Any thoughts on longevity, Kyle?
Well, it's not a huge amount. I could see it being a huge boost to families, just knowing you're going to get a little bump in November, right? That's when the payment comes, right before the holidays.
Sure.
On longevity, I mean, it tops out at 1,000 after,
Yeah.
but if you go past that, you're just gonna give them a little more, start increasing the people that are. Does it go to 15?
Yeah.
It's 15,
Fif-
over 15 it
15
tops
plus,
out.
yeah.
Now at 1,000, raising to 300 would top out at 1,500.
I'd like to have that longevity discussion with the department heads, and so if you haven't made that suggestion to your department head,
And I
tell her
can
to send
send
it
this
to.
spreadsheet
to-
out. I don't know, I don't remember if it was just council that got this, or if I sent it to Steve as chair of that look familiar? Take a copy. I have an extra copy. Share it with your colleagues. I think I sent it.
I've
A
got
lot of
an
things I
extra
do, I
copy.
send out to you, and then it's up to you to share with your colleagues if you want to. Oh. Shame on you.
No, Steve doesn't read his emails. We have to tell him when we need him to read emails.
Well, if I'd known that, I would have just sent it to all three of you. Okay.
We've got 300 more to go.
What do you read? Did you get a copy of it? I don't remember. It was 2 weeks ago. I don't remember who I copied.
No, I didn't.
Okay, well, you do now.
Just made
And
it
you're
through
about
April.
to. Well, no, nobody told me that.
Yeah, if it's important, send it. Ken, if it's important, send it to one of us and we'll get it to him.
Do you have to read it to them?
A lot of things I do CC you. I CC you on a lot of things, but this one I wanted to get some feedback from the council. Am I off? Should I share it with anybody else? And this is the first opportunity I really had to talk.
Yeah, we should have had
About
that.
it.
Everybody, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not secret. One night I said, I wonder what it would cost after that second department head meeting to give a little boost for, thank you for serving 5 years, 8, 9 years, 12 years, 15 years. Right now, 1,000 doesn't do it if you've been here 15 years. I mean, that's the drop in the bucket. 15 would be better. It'd almost keep up with the inflation we've had the last 5 years. I mean, seriously, it's not much. I said, in teaching profession, it's an automatic, like, $1,000 bump every year. It's on the salary schedule.
Okay.
Plus they get turf, except it's called turf because it's teacher retirement.
Right.
What?
For those of you guys sitting here and any councilman, councilperson that are listening, I have scanned the letter of engagement with Wagner Irwin Shealy and forwarded it to the entire council.
What is it?
It's the Wagner Irwin Shealy contract.
Oh, thank you.
Is there, a-
I listened to the commissioners meeting. I did hear that you'd passed that. So that I was aware of. I just didn't hear the amount of 13,800.
We
That I
got it
didn't
now.
catch, but
Yeah.
thank you for doing that.
is there a third council member that's expressed wishes to attend next Friday department head meeting?
No.
Just two of you
Susan
so
is
far.
kind of probably, I've asked her about serving on the 3 personnel manual. She said no.
Susan's got to have surgery here shortly, so she's
And
rather.
I would like to. I expressed that in a text, but other than that, it's open.
I'm
it's
happy
open to those
I'm
interested.
happy to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
22nd.
Next Friday.
And we want to, right.
That's what I was
That's
looking
we're
at.
trying to decide which
Yeah.
3, just like we're trying to decide which 3 to serve on the personnel manual review. I did say I'd like to serve on that.
I can attend next Friday.
Okay.
What time is it again?
2.
2?
Basement 911.
That's right.
Training. So, those listening at home, you need to speak up, or if you're going to listen to it later at home, you'll need to, but we do want to limit it to 3 for good reason. Okay, what else is on the, you have a hard 5, I have a hard 15 that we've got to, any thoughts? Betsy said she would tune in, but I think she's with Penn State doing her job. Any thoughts about job classification committee at this time? I keep hearing the last meeting was not pleasant. But other than that, do you want to discuss anything or any
I
thoughts?
think that there'll be more discussion about that, or we'll need to have more discussion about that maybe after we iron some of these things out with department heads.
Okay.
If we can get job classification back to a point where it's functioning and it makes sense, and it is useful to have that advisory board, great, but functioning the way it was is of no value.
I know you've never been a fan. Dating back to 2015.
Once a job classification is used in the manner that it is supposed
It was intended.
intended to be maybe once, twice a year max than what it was actually supposed to be intended for.
I don't think it will be a problem
Yeah.
either, but we've got to get it back to that point.
And that was discussed at both department head meetings. It evolved somehow, and I don't know when, but it evolved to something that's not as useful or practical. Well, that starts making sense.
Well, we've got an opportunity to get that job classification committee back on track, and I think we've got 3 members of that committee and 1 commissioner, and some citizen appointments and employee appointments.
And numbers picked up in January, so that's all
Well, yeah,
positive.
there was a reason for that too, but I think that group needs to focus on making that work, so
Agreed. And I purposely didn't volunteer for that one.
I tried to
So I can be an
purposefully not
impartial
volunteer.
person when you bring it to the council meetings. So we will, I've said that about several of my liaisons lately. haven't I? Yeah, and several committees. We think similarly. Okay. I talked about increase in longevity. You see what it would cost. I actually went through every person and where they're at on the 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 years, and that's in that spreadsheet I shared out. So we know about what it would cost to increase it. It'd be nice if we could increase it 300 minimally, but that's what it would cost to 250 and 300 as a start. I'd like to see how that worked out. And then we could always increase that if it worked out great and monies kept coming in and we kept putting a buffer in our budget. We might be able to eventually increase that, but it seems to me like 200 is not much of a
I'm gonna
thank you
say-
for longevity.
I'm going to say this, Ken, and just for you to consider and think about. In my mind, your items 2F and G are tied together. And that's what I was saying earlier, right? So,
O, F, and G.
yeah, yeah.
I agree
So-
with what you said earlier.
So, yeah, if we look at a longevity type modification that, who knows, maybe we can get up from $200 to $500, but that might mean less.
I hope we can eventually get to a $500. I just don't know if
I
we
need
want
to
to
have-
try all that in one year, but
Well, I think we need to have that discussion with department heads
I-
and see where we shake out.
I
So,
agree with that statement. Yeah, I'm not, but that's what it would cost to
Appreciate
do the $50
I just wanted to
bump.
put a $500 number in your brain.
Yeah, well, that's why I put a 3% minimum in your brain.
Gotcha.
That's where I'd like to see it minimally fall, except for those that got big bumps
Got it.
already. They got their perks. Are we ready to move on to sheriff vehicles, or do you want to adjourn?
The only other thing I was gonna throw in there was maybe people value their time more than
Sure.
200, 250, 300, 500. The possibility of saying, hey, I'd rather have 3 extra days off or something like that versus building, I think it's worth looking at that
I
as a
think the
possibility.
22nd is throw out, what do you
Yeah.
think? Would you rather
Yeah.
have this? There's
That's
X
what I
amount of
said,
money.
the big
or would you
picture.
rather this?
I completely
What would
agree.
keep you here
Yeah.
versus jumping to Hamilton County or Hancock County that pays 15% more?
Right.
What would keep you here? It used to be a family-type atmosphere where we paid competitively. We've kind of drifted from that. Society's drifted from that, but we monetarily have drifted from that. We're not competitive, and we've known that for a long time. It started with tax caps about the same time all these big industry, and so our
Sure.
tax base went, and the state didn't help, and they're still not helping. I made a comment to Corey Criswell at EDC, didn't I? And he had about 5 people cornering him. No, I don't want people to hear it. Anyway, I made a comment to Corey Criswell at EDC. He was hit up by a lot of people, and part of it had to do with 1454, and I did make a comment to him. And Corey Murphy goes, "You want to comment on that?"
Rebuttal.
Rebuttal? He said, "No."
What's that?
He later said, "I agree, I didn't vote for 1454. I said, "Why didn't you rebut?" He said, "I didn't think of it fast enough." So he's like me. What I should have said. Yeah. Yeah, I think he and Jeff
We can make all
Rotz
kinds
have
of
heard it from numerous people, from what I hear. So at any rate, anything else before moving on to sheriff vehicles?
Nope.
A lot to discuss or you guys can take the lead at the department head meetings, because they're pretty open and frank at that meeting.
Sure.
And I think it's healthy that that's been being held on a regular basis. If you had a chance to listen to the commissioners' meeting yesterday, kind of some things are in limbo. There was $200,000 from ARP that was approved for sheriff vehicles.
Can I ask the commissioners a clarifying question? And not related to the dollars, but my understanding is that you guys just really, the proposal was for the language to be drafted into the ordinance to come back to you to be passed, and then it will come to this board for approval, or the full council. It won't even make, it won't make September meeting, so we've got time on
We've
that.
got time, but any thoughts or any questions for the commissioners?
No,
I'd
and
ask
I-
you to watch the.
I watched, and
live
I did have
you?
one
I have
comment,
not
and
had
I've
time.
spoke
Do
to
that.
both commissioners that are here, and that's that the sheriff referred to going back to the council for financing, and that is not a county council function. I told you, Bobby, that last night on the phone, and told Steve that this morning. Okay, good.
But with that being said, we have, used to always be the way we did it. So like the highway department, even Steve Russ just recently did it. The department head goes to the bank, tells them what they want, gets everything rolling, then they bring it to the commissioners to sign. The
Sure.
commissioners never initiate it, it's always initiated by the department.
Sure.
Does the sheriff know that?
They tried telling yesterday, but I don't know.
Okay,
Yeah, just so long as,
Moving on.
as the sheriff's office is not coming to the council, looking for us to approve financing. Okay,
fair enough.
just, It's the only comment I have related to it.
Fair enough. Now, refresh my memory, it seemed like we approved 64,000, 64,
64.4, I believe, is it?
so
64,400.
64,000 plus, we approved in the budget. At the time, the conversation, as I recall, was for leasing, and I heard the sheriff say there's no leasing. But you've talked to Matt since then, and they just need to talk to each other.
I did speak with Captain Pierce, and the no desire to lease was discussed yesterday, and it is what it is. From a council person's perspective, they've got those dollars in there. We talked to them about what they were able to use them for. That's what they're able to use them for. The rest of the public safety lit dollars have been budgeted.
Jail and safety is pretty
And
much,
so the dollars pretty much are what they are for 2024. And I think we told everybody before that 2024 can be a tight year. So
yeah, the homestead will take, yeah, it'll kick in, and it
So,
will have an effect. We just
as
don't know.
far as the council is concerned, those dollars are there for vehicles. How that department spends those dollars and what contracts or loan obligations that has nothing to do with council. That has to do, the only thing is you guys execute the agreements, right? Yeah, so I will make a comment that if they do engage in any type of financial agreement using the ARP dollars to make payments, then we need to be an agreement to commit dollars to make years 2, 3, 4 payments or whatever.
It's
We
going
don't
to have an impact.
$1,000 has to be spent by end of 2026 anyway.
Sure, but could they finance over 3 years and spend that money and get more vehicles? They could, I suppose.
You
Yes,
can get a
sure.
personal lease, 36 months, 48 months, but
It seems like it, yes, and I mentioned that to Captain Pierce, that don't over-obligate yourself without having confidence that the council is willing to commit those dollars to make the payments, because
That's
you
hard to
start, I don't want to see you make a year's worth of payments and then the bank come get it. So, I think that discussion will come back to us at some point.
yeah, at some point, you know. it
And
will.
we'll have to decide how many dollars we are willing to allocate on an ongoing basis.
Sorry, Shannon.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Historically, any better rates for the government from a lending standpoint than an average citizen? Surely they can do better than current.
I would have to defer to, I was able to borrow money and from the federal government at a very good rate. However, we'll need to hire probably 3 more accountants to make sure we keep it all straight and do the reporting right for the federal government if we did that, but that's a whole nother story.
That's why
my-
Joe doesn't do too many federal
My,
bridges.
my inclination is that the rates should be favorable, although define favorable in today's environment, rates are not.
Less favorable than a year
Yeah.
ago.
So I am not aware. I would defer to local banks, I guess.
I would think that the rates would be, interest rates, APR, whatever, would be less than a regular individual if you've got a government entity.
Yeah.
But that's just a guess on my part. I didn't know if
The
we'd ever had
enterprise lease
experience
was
with
also a
anything like
lease
this at
purchase.
all. Sorry, what's that?
Yeah, he would. He studies
Okay.
that all the time.
Yeah, but there's no reason they can't. And the lease purchase program, the enterprise was a lease purchase program as well. You had an option to buy at the end of the lease. So if Citizen State Bank does that, or First Merchants, or whoever they want to deal, that's up to them to figure it out, I guess. I have no idea what the rates look like.
And Kyle said he has a hard stop at 5, and I do shortly thereafter. One thing I wanted to share with you and whoever may be listening in the future or now, we're going to be hit up with food and beverage related requests. I've been hit up 3 times think Jeff Ray's going to be here. He's going to contact Debbie and be here on the 29th. Carrie Barrett has hit up Bobby and me and others. The big one is the Ready 2.0. It's like a 50-50 match where like Community Crossings is a 25 match. So if we get 2 million, we have to match it. So, and they're going to come to the county, they're going to come to the city, and the only thing we have that we could even talk about would be food and beverage. I'm just planting a seed that that's going to be coming. Last time I checked, your it's 3 weeks old from the last, budget that you give us before our meetings.
Sure.
We have that bond that sucks up a lot of it. I don't, the account or fund number,
1233, is it the?
food and
what-
beverage.
Food and beverage, food and beverage isn't in there. Oh, is that that's.
I did have it because I looked at it.
4902, yeah.
Okay. 49. Anyway, I think we have about $1 million after. It's post-COVID, people went out and ate. They were locked up and they're eating like like they're going to Welliver's 10 years ago. Most people are eating like crazy at fast food restaurants and other restaurants. Yeah. When Baker Tilly did their projections ahead of that food and beverage bond, they were projecting about 600,000 a year, and we've been getting like 850,000 a year post-COVID, and even the COVID year was higher than they had projected. So people are going to hit us up because we're one of the few entities that would have any kind of cash at all.
Wow.
So to be considered, they will hit us up.
They will, and my understanding is that it'll be project-based, the awards will be, so we will have to decide the project and whether we've got the money to fund it and
Right.
where to fund it from.
And they'll have to come and present their case, but letting you know, heads up.
Sure, and
it's
my
gonna be
assumption is
coming.
they'll apply for everything under the sun and
Right.
see what they get. And
Well, last time we only got 1.5 million out of Ready. This Ready's a little bit different. It is project-based. It's state monies instead of COVID monies or ARPA money. So there's a few little different ground rules, but those committees are being set up and they'll start meeting in the near future.
Sure.
Have
Went
you-
to Ball State meeting. They've hired a different consultant this time, and they're trying very hard to be more competitive because some regions got $50 million, we got 15, which means we got 10% because we were roughly 10% of the population of the 8 counties in East Central Indiana. I think it's down to 7 now. One pulled out and went someplace else. But hopefully we'll get 2 million.
So everybody I've sent the survey to has been very receptive.
Yeah, the survey.
yeah, to
I've
get that
posted it
done.
several times with a QR code.
Mm-hmm.
I've taken it at least once, maybe twice. That and the broadband survey. So anybody's listening, please take that survey. I know the EDC's posted it and other entities around the county have posted it. It's a good survey. They're asking good questions that'll give them, I think, good data for Ready. But anything else?
I'm good.
I think that no, clock's not too far from.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, don't forget the meeting on the 29th. I guess I'm going to AIC. Commissioners, you're going to AIC? Debbie's going to AIC. Is that it?
Debbie is the moderator for the budget class.
Well, lucky you.
Awesome.
Well, I've got to make sure I come.